Recording is on.
Welcome to DXgov governance discussion for Wednesday, September 1st, 1500 UTC, and happy Swapper launch day. Happy Arbitrum 1 launch day. Starting first with the proposal roundup. On mainnet, there are three big proposals. The first one is transfer 100 ETH to XDAI for the DXD buyback. So the DXD buyback is in its second iteration, and this is a re-up to, I believe this should complete the additional $1 million of DXD purchases. The next is, it's actually a couple different proposals. Sky has a couple different DXD vesting proposals for different ones. Just as a side note, we are trying to figure out a new system for getting the DXD payments out. We will not be, given that a lot of contributors are coming up on 1 year of getting DXD payments. We're going to have to figure out a way to get those distributed. We are going to chat about this in the contributor UX, and we'll kind of figure out a way to move forward with that. And then the other proposal is to transfer 700 ETH to a DXDAO base. So a DXDAO base, still working on names or titles, DXDAO base on Arbitrum 1. So this is a lot of work's been going into this last couple months, and this is meant to fund the base and also be used as liquidity on Swapper on Arbitrum. So it is. This is actually two things I guess to notice about this. This is using a new multi-sig and therefore a new ETH layer contract. So I submitted the proposal. I actually did two separate proposals, one for 5 ETH and one for 695 ETH. I think this is a pretty simple contract, but given the amount of ETH, I was just it went with the double, just to be double safe there. But this is a new ETH Railer contract and a new multi-sig that has the same signers as the ones before. They were all on the previous multi-sig, but this one should allow us to have the same address on multiple networks. So I think we now have the same address on mainnet, XDAI, and Polygon, and hopefully that is on Arbitrum. I guess I don't know if anyone's tried Gnosis Safe on Arbitrum 1 yet. I would gather it's not yet live, but maybe is coming soon. And then the second thing about,
I was going to say for that test one, like it's definitely a good idea, I think, to do the test because it's so much ETH. And we'll just have to be careful to do the test quickly, because if it failed for something, which we don't anticipate, but if something was wrong, we'd have to vote down the other proposal, right? Because
so
once it passes, it's executable. Yeah.
So they're about 13 hours difference. So the other one was boosted last night, so there should be a little bit of time there. And so
we'll just have to schedule it. Schedule it next week.
Mostly because I think this is the largest transfer out of the.
We would not. We want to be the risk is maybe low, but the impact would be high. So we should be careful.
Right. Yeah. Cool. And then second on this proposal for the liquidity provisioning. So, DXDAO has been providing liquidity on Swapper on both mainnet and XDAI. So this would be the first one on Arbitrum. But it's also interesting that there's, this is happening when Arbitrum 1 is launching, lots of liquidity kind of rushing in. And so there's some opportunities there for strategic liquidity allocation to different pairs. So this proposal did have a little bit more flexibility on how that on how those allocations should be decided, still within the same buckets of ETH and stablecoin pairs and that, but there is a little bit more flexibility in this one. And just for it would be good to do this. We want to execute this, I guess, next week. And so thinking about the plan, this will be Wednesday night, the test proposal will go through. And then Thursday would be the time that we could get the funds over to DXDAO. And this will probably take a little bit of coordination to acquire the funds and then bridge over and everything like that. So maybe planning next Thursday for that. Well, and then XDAI base. Starting with, I think that's it for mainnet base, and then XDAI base. There is a couple different proposals. There's a member balancer for WETH and XDXD. I was wondering, I don't know if Sky or Gusto could talk about this briefly, because I think this was done through like DXvote, and it's kind of a little confusing because it was like sending, I guess, WETH and XDXD, but not through the funding and voting power scheme.
Yeah, so so member balancers typically in the past have been funding like a single token funding and voting proposals through Alchemy. So you can request one, like member balancer. What do we do? Like we did, I don't remember what we started. What was the main use case of it actually? Was it, what were we trying to
diversify the treasury? It was diversify the treasury.
Diversify the treasury, yeah. So that was,
and
like you did one token, so you sent tokens to the DAO, and then you requested that token back from the DAO, and there was this like risk period. So in this scenario, there was a small bit of two different tokens, so WETH and XDXD, which already XDXD has an issue with Alchemy. You can't request the correct XDXD in Alchemy unless you like jerry rig it like John's done. So having the multi-call is actually pretty powerful. So in one proposal, you can have two separate two separate transactions, and the tricky thing is getting the ABI code or whatever, like the actual code. And so there's a tool for that. And so you can manually, I think you can do it in MetaMask. Like you can set up a transaction in MetaMask, or you can use like this ABI code tool, and you can basically set up to get the inputs for how to send to like a token to a certain address. And it's not straightforward, but like maybe we can make a post or tutorial about it. And then you just do two separate basically token sends, which send from the DAO to a single address. And then you put those in the same proposal, and that's the single proposal. There was one that Augusto did first, but it didn't have the details of like what it was actually happening. So it was like just send tokens. And so I just redid it like myself, like from scratch to see if I could do it. And then also include all the details of like the address of like the transactions that were actually being sent. And that was used basically to get a little bit of token into the farming relayer, because we had a farm starting, but the farming relayer wasn't funded fully. It was only partially funded. And so you'd have to do a whole separate proposal and go for 5-6 days in order to get that funding in. So that really, the relayers are good, but the relayers slow things down. It's an extra step. So the member balancer in that case, like, was a quicker way to do it.
And yeah, this is possible on XDAI multi-call scheme, but not on mainnet. Yeah.
Would it be possible on Arbitrum?
Yes, it should be possible on Arbitrum. But yeah, like, I mean, like you're kind of saying, right, this, we need to make improvements to the voting interface to make sure that it's super clear what's going on here, right? It's sort of risky when things are not very clear what's going on. So
yeah,
one of the reasons we don't have it on mainnet yet.
But I think what Sky's doing, and like I think I want to start doing, is like we're just using DXvote to do these things. So you run into the very like specific, like, oh, this is actually what we need to do, and turns out we need to do this all the time. So like, how do we make that?
Exactly. Yeah.
And this is something you can't do on Alchemy. So like DXvote, there's already like 5 things that we can do now that you can't do on Alchemy that like make everything much, much better. Like knowing what your proposals to redeem, sending 2 tokens at the same time. Yeah, a whole bunch of things. So
not having the subgraph because it goes down all the time.
Yeah. Like last week Alchemy wasn't working. And so the proposals weren't feeding. And so you basically have to rely on DXvote. But DXvote is different to like look through proposals. It's a whole different like experience. So we need to, I put in like a feature request to Augusto to like better organize like how you look at which proposals need to be like actually looked at. Cause that's a little easier. Like they're organized a little better in Alchemy, but if Alchemy is not working, that's useless. So there's still like things we need to improve on DXvote, like things that are actually not working that well. But the only way to fix it is for everyone to like only use it basically. Or if you're going to use Alchemy, use both, but always use DXvote as well.
And on Arbitrum, DXvote is the only option. So, yeah.
Yeah. And even like Dave and I were talking about this before the call of just like thinking of all, even like the buyback, like how can we start having like buyback transactions go through DXvote? So that's something we're going to try to do is like everything that we do in governance, providing liquidity, even I guess like ENS domain updates, even kind of thinking about those, how we eventually do those. Even when I was like putting the agenda for this call, I went to DXvote to like copy the proposals and some of the links rather than Alchemy, just as like a way to get you in the habit of doing it, because it will take like a transition time. Augusto, just quickly, because the one thing I tried to do a proposal actually for like a payout for my contributor, and I was able to get the token transfer there, but I wasn't able to get the rep. But then the other thing I wasn't going to do you need the pinata keys to like submit? Do you need to add those to be able to submit to IPFS to have like the description appear? Or like, because I couldn't get the description appear for the proposal that I had.
If he's not there, Augusto, you might be on mute. But I've had the same experience. And so there's two things. I don't believe you need your own pinata keys. I think it is an optional thing. And if you don't have it, like, I think it defaults to like Augusto's or someone else's, right? Like a generic one. So I don't think you need to have that input to get stuff onto IPFS. Separately though, there's a number of scenarios where it like takes a while to get it uploaded. And sometimes it just like keeps saying uploading. And also if you look at DXvote, sometimes you pull it up and you actually don't see the true descriptions. You just see the wallet address that submitted the transaction. And sometimes you see a mix of the two. And that's basically like that's not the graph, but that's IPF, like pulling the data from IPFS. And sometimes it's just much slower. And so eventually it usually loads, but that I don't think the issue you are facing is that like you don't definitely need your own pinata keys, no. But that's what my understanding, but Augusto obviously would know the best.
Yeah. Just because we could get a little sidetracked here, but this was because we were using a proposal to use DXvote for a member balancer that was on XDAI there. Just to kind of quickly go through the different XDAI proposals. There's DXD buyback number 37 and number 38 are their funding proposals and multi-call proposals. Levo T8 contributor proposal, TAMI worker proposal, the DXDAO Discord rep boost for Cabello are all there. Francesco was on the call earlier. It's his last proposal there, and some words there to check out and go vote. And then just boosted, I think this morning, is the greater than workshop in DX retreat proposal that I believe is from Nylon. Wasn't sure if anyone had any thoughts or comments on those. Cool. And then, exciting, moving from mainnet to XDAI, now doing a proposal roundup on the official third DXDAO base on Arbitrum 1. There is, I believe, 2 proposals live, one that is set to pass, an initial permission setting proposal on Arbitrum 1. And I also believe this is the other thing is DXvote is now up on away from Augusto's GitHub and on dxvote.eth. Of course, the .eth.link comes with another set of problems now. But yeah, I don't know if Augusto or John wanted to talk about this initial permission setting proposal that's set to pass today on the DXDAO base in Arbitrum 1 and what that will kind of mean going forward for the base there.
I can talk if Augusto's not able to unmute here. But yeah, there's two permissions proposals. The first one was actually a mistake. As you'll notice, though, somebody kind of aped in and boosted it, but now their vote is losing. Unfortunately, that means that those DXD are going to ADXDAO, and there'll be a 25% rep slash. So definitely be careful when doing your alchemy and now DXvote voting. But yeah, the idea here, the purpose of this initial permission setting is to set the permissions on the Swapper quick wallet scheme. So there's a Swapper quick wallet. The idea with the quick wallets is they take actions from themselves and use funds that are within their own contract separate from the avatar. So you can, potentially do things in a faster way with, specific amounts of funds that, limit the risks. And the idea here with the initial liquidity mining on Arbitrum for the Swapper token is to use the Swapper quick wallet scheme to kick off all of those campaigns. And so part of that initial launch plan was for the deployer to put its 6 point something million Swapper tokens onto this quick wallet scheme. And so, yeah, those are in place and kind of ready to go for liquidity mining. Once this proposal passes in 7 hours, the Swapper quick wallet scheme should be like enabled to interact with the farming contracts on Arbitrum. So this is sort of opening, like enabling governance to kick off farming campaigns on Arbitrum. And if you look at the quick wallet scheme, the parameters are such that it can boost in, I think it's 12 hours, and then the boosting period is 1 day. So if we look at the timeline, like in theory here, we could post a proposal to do the first farming campaign on Arbitrum with Swapper, starting in like 7 hours if this proposal passes, as it's looking at well. And then in a day and a half, that farming campaign proposal could potentially pass as well, right? So in theory, it's possible to have farming live by Friday. Not that that's necessarily the plan. I'm just like, that's kind of what's enabled here with the governance setting. So yeah, it's a bit hard to read this. I think Federico and me did do some review for Augusto to confirm that it was formatted and working correctly. But if you scroll down a bit, there's like 24 actions being taken. Yeah, it's not the easiest to understand, but it's basically setting a whole bunch of permissions for this Swapper wallet scheme. And it probably doesn't make sense to go through it now, but you can kind of see like it's the setting, like which token, the from address, like the permissions to send from, the avatar or the quick wallet scheme to something. So yeah, so you see some quick wallet schemes the quick wallet scheme separate from the Swapper wallet scheme. So this is actually setting some permissions also on the quick wallet scheme and the avatar. But yeah, as we mentioned earlier, like this is powerful, but it's also kind of difficult to understand what's going on, right? So part of the evolution of the voting platform will have to be to make some of this stuff more visible. So it's sort of like the alpha beta of DXvote.
Can you hear me, guys?
Yeah, we can hear Gusto now.
Yeah. Oh, no, yes, awesome. Okay. Yes, like John said, that is a mess to read and to understand. So we are going to improve it soon. We have all the tools to improve it. So the idea would be to show that in a more readable way. For example, when you're seeing asset 0, means that you are transferring or executing Ethereum. smart contract calls. And when you are seeing an asset with an address, that means that refers to a token. So in the future, instead of showing the address of the asset, we are going to show the name, like, for example, swapper token. And instead of showing 0x we are going to show any function. So you will see, for example, the avatar is allowing to call, it's being allowed to call this contract and call any function, or call only the function with the signature, with this signature, and send at maximum this amount of ether. And the same for the tokens. You are going to be seeing swapper token is being allowed to be transferred between the avatar and the swapper wallet scheme, and the swapper wallet scheme is being allowed to transfer swapper tokens between the avatar and the swapper factory contracts. So that is how we are going to see it in the future. Yeah, that's the plan.
Another thing that is planned, right, Augusto, I know you've been busy with a bunch of stuff, but is to do the adjusting the DXD staking amounts.
Oh, yes. About that, we should do it. In fact, we should do it soon, very soon. We have already a proposal ready to be already designed. But yeah, maybe where should we talk about this? In the governance chat, or should I create a DAO talk topic with the schemes proposed?
Well, I think we kind of know that it's a bit high right now, so it would be good to get those lowered sooner rather than later. So I think maybe at least for the DXD part, we can post it in the governance chat and discuss it a bit there before making the proposal.
And then I would just link the proposal to the DXDAO launch Arbitrum thread. That's got a lot of the information on it that people have been tracking. Then we can link. I'm starting to link to things to DXvote too. I don't know if we should be doing .eth.link, but I think it is. It's good to start linking there from the forum.
Yeah, we need a way to verify that the configuration that is being set, because this is very, very powerful, because you can change the entire configuration of the scheme, the voting parameters mainly. But we also talk about removing the voter reputation loss ratio. Do we want to do it? Because if we want, we can also remove this in this proposal, like lower the DXG staking and remove the voter reputation loss ratio. I think that we all agree that that we didn't need. That was kind of what I understood from the last governance call.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's pretty clear that those are a little aggressive, and we should try to tone that down. It's not the end of the discussion, right? Like, I think you could still make a DAO talk post, and because there's other parameters too that you need. It's almost like we should start a place where people can kind of express their opinions about the different parameters, because there's a lot to configure there. But yeah, the voting loss of like 25%, like on this one, that's a little bit aggressive, I think, and the DXD is going to start adding up real quickly with the farming campaigns and stuff. So we should lower that, I think.
And just to like kind of emphasize, so like governance is live on Arbitrum 1 like now, right? The network is live. If you've got ArbETH and you were like a rep holder, I'm not exactly sure when the rep was mapped, like you can go and participate in governance now on Arbitrum 1. But I think what John's saying is like be very, very careful, because this is very new stuff that we're still figuring out and configuring.
Yes, exactly. Yes. But you will have the repetition, I guess. Yeah, we share it. It's an old blog. I think it's 2 months ago. We can sync the repetition. That is other thing that we can do. Actually, we can do 3 things. One is to update the voting parameters, the values that we want to change in the required DXD for staking, the removing the voter repetition loss ratio or lowering it a lot. And also we need to set the boosted required vote percentage. This is something that we set in this initial permissions proposal. The required percentage for boosted proposals that needs to be set on a different call to the DXgov machine. We cannot call it yet. We will be able to call it once the permissions are allowed. And another important thing is that after the permissions are allowed, we have a time delay, and I think in Arbitrum is 1 or 3 days. So after you set the allowance for a permission, you have to wait some time for it to be executed. This is a security measure to increase the time between permissions change.
So how does that impact if we're going to do the farming proposals, when can we start those?
Well, if it's going to be allowed in, for example, in 3 days, and the farming proposal is going to take, I don't know, 5 days, you can do it now, right? So you know that in 5 days, this permission is going to be enabled. You just need to have to take that in account.
Yeah, let's sync up after this call about that, because the timing, I think, is going to be pretty important. And I think some people are pretty eager to get those campaigns kicked off. So we should know exactly when that. Do you know how long the permissions grace period is?
I can tell you now. Have to look into the contracts. For Arbitrum is 1 day.
Good.
So
that doesn't slow us down too much. Right?
So would that mean tomorrow we'd be able to start the proposals for farming? Or they would start and then it'd be 1.5 days from when they could complete?
So they probably wouldn't pass for 1.5 days. And if the permissions are enabled after 1 day, we could do the swapper farming proposal right away, right, Augusto? Like we could do that today.
That's positive, yes.
Yeah. So the permissions one passes in 7 hours. We could start the farming proposal right after that. It takes 1.5 days, so it passes like Thursday night. By that time, the permissions will be enabled, right? So we can actually execute and send the swapper from the swapper wallet scheme to the farming campaign.
Yeah. This is something that we need to show it in DXgov later. So you can propose calls with permission that wasn't allowed, but you have to take that account. That, for example, the proposal will be executable in 24 hours. To have that in mind. So yeah, a lot of things that right now, for example, I'm thinking that, hey, we should show the time when this permission is going to be allowed, because in this case, right, we are going to be submitting a proposal because it's allowed and we're using the time. All the things we are going to improve it in the UI, the more we use it, like Sky said.
One other important thing on Arbitrum, on DXvote Arbitrum, or DXDAO, is a whole bunch of people probably don't have the right amount of rep. And so if you have the rep on mainnet, right, which some people have topped up according to like recent proposals and stuff, but I think this snapshot's from a while ago, so people should do rep top-ups on Arbitrum if they're missing rep compared to mainnet, which is the same number you have on mainnet. I don't know, like if obviously you don't want like 20 people all doing it at the same time, maybe if we have other important proposals, and I don't know about what staking and all that stuff demands are, but it's a good way for people to get used to doing proposals on Arbitrum, and it makes it better if everyone has the right amount of rep, because some people like don't have any rep on Arbitrum and they should have rep, right?
Completely agree. And I think it's like, it would be nice then you think about like what is governance on Arbitrum 1 in the initial stages, and it's like swapper campaigns, launching those, kind of facilitating those, but then also like syncing, I guess, rep or getting people involved in like DXvote. So I guess I'm looking and I can see the percentage that I have in the Arbitrum base, but I don't actually, is there a way to see the exact amount that I have.
Oh, good feature we need.
You don't see it in your user page.
For the amount of rep, is that the question? Where do you see the
amount of
rep? So this is what I see here. I've got 2.24%.
And it's up at the top too.
Yeah, but then is that how much precisely is that?
Yeah, we should show it.
Number.
You are seeing the double percentage. So yeah, that value we have it there. I mean, we have it on the browser on the JavaScript level. So it's not hard to show it. Create an issue, Chris.
I will.
Also, all these issues that are easy to fix, I assign it with good first issues. So later, if new contributor needs to help on the DXgov, they just can be assigned to one of them. Like for example, I think Adam took a good first issue and he assigned it to himself. That is one of the things that we are going to be doing to integrate more developers in collaborating on the DXgov.
Oh yeah, Dave's probably good because it's probably like March or something. Oh, that's a good point.
Yeah, I took the vlog right before Dave got his rep. That is when I took the
arbitrary.
Thank you very much.
De nada, Dave.
Yeah, we'll have to think about this syncing. I think we'll need this specific number because you think about the way you do the rep sync is you subtract. I guess Dave fits 0, so he knows that he can subtract whichever one he has. But for those that have rep on Arbitrum, but maybe not enough, we'll have to know that number. But I agree with Sky. We should be doing this and maybe like get a template out or some initial proposals for people that have done it.
Well, Dave, you had on XDI. So there's a whole bunch of people that only have rep on XDI, and they have like the right to rep on mainnet. And really, you should do your mainnet top up first before you then ask for that amount of rep on Arbitrum, because mainnet number rep is like the final answer, I think, right? So if you haven't done mainnet top up, you're then have another step to do.
Yep. Because that's the source when we're talking before. Like it flows down from mainnet.
Yeah, but it's most people it's been earned in written XDI proposals, the right to mainnet rep, and so you need to get that first. Yeah.
Right. That's like the justification, but that's not like the source of truth. But the source of truth is still like mainnet. So you can reference the XDI one to get the mainnet one. But yeah, these are all things. I mean, this is the challenges that kind of managing the rep here and syncing. And I think gas is a concern here. It is kind of a limiting factor across these things.
One of the things that we can do, we can start syncing reputation through wallet scheme. For example, the master wallet scheme has a maximum reputation change to 5%. So we can get how much the reputation change in mainnet between the block that we update that we use and the latest one. And if it change, 10% with 2 proposals, we can update the reputation to match the one on mainnet. Let's say if you have to issue 3% of rep among 20 addresses, that's no problem. You need to submit 20 calls to meet the reputation.
Yeah. So when do we think the rep sync makes sense to let people have some time to sync up on mainnet and then maybe revisit the rep sync like next week or the week after? The other thing is this is all really important, but I think that the first priority is getting the swapper campaign set up and making sure that works well. And then there's going to be a lot to kind of sort out and
I think it is important to get the rep. I mean, if we're sending $2.25 million there, I think it is like important to get the rep like synced to that, and that's like the 8 days from there. And I'm thinking like Dave, for instance, like if he's got mainnet rep, he's got that there. He's kind of figuring out how to use DXgov. I think we could just like figure out how to do the template. But I think we're doing the swapper stuff over the next like 2 days, right?
Yeah.
Like that's
I just want to make sure we're being careful because like as you see with the permissions proposal, there's a lot to kind of manage there, and just taking it one step at a time, I think is smart.
And is there a big need to do majority proposals?
There shouldn't be.
Yeah, then that solves that.
Yeah, but if we can take 2 steps at the same time and kind of jump, that's better, right?
I knew you would say that, Augusto, but that's why I'm trying to tell people to be careful. We don't want to take 4 steps and fall on our face, One step at a time is good.
Okay, I guess that's kind of it for the proposal roundup across the 3 bases. Lots of things going on there. Just like the other things to had it on the agenda to hit on before. We've talked a lot about DXgov and Arbitrum 1, so I don't know if we want to hit any more on that. But then swapper stuff has been exciting and a lot of things going on here. As I said, there'd be a lot of governance for going on that on Arbitrum 1 to getting those campaigns started. And then the 2 more open discussion, I guess, the Treasury Diversification V3 post that I think went up last week and has gotten some interesting feedback. And then the proposal to DX Ventures grant to hats. But before that, was there anything we needed to kind of check in on swapper token? I know there's, I guess just getting DX stats up there. Is there any kind of thing that's happened in the last 12 hours to focus on for swapper? Zed's getting sleep.
It's basically DX stats. But and obviously farming on Arbitrum.
So DX stats, there's I think a release is almost ready. Federico can probably address that. Takes 4 days, obviously, to update the ENS content hash on mainnet. But I mean, DX stats, it's just a read-only kind of information site, basically, right? So something that could be done is, pretty much anybody could take that release and deploy it to something and share that with the community while we're waiting for the actual DX stat study to be updated, which may make sense if we want to get a stat site out ASAP.
I think as long as we get it up before farming, that's good, and I think we will. So I don't think people are too interested right now. I haven't seen anyone actually ask for it. I've seen someone saying that stats for Arbitrum is not there, but I don't think people actually want to look at the stats yet. But as soon as we start planning, showing the farms, I think people want to see the stats.
Yeah, totally. Right now, it's where's my airdrop?
Yeah.
Next week, it'll be how much liquidity is in this farm?
Yeah, it's a lot of support, like a lot.
So
it is great that
Sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to say, it's great that the airdrop is also happening with Arbitrum 1 launch. So people are kind of like using that as an opportunity to like play around on Arbitrum 1 and not necessarily like, oh, what can I do with this token that I just got airdropped? And so they'll probably run out of that fascination in like the next couple days, but then we'll have farming to kind of come right after that and attract people.
Yeah. So is the airdrop, is it ready enough so that I can send out the tweets or is it still broken or like somewhat broken?
I think we could send out the tweets. We should just maybe coordinate so we have people ready to respond on Telegram, on Discord. I was actually up all night yesterday just responding to people because that link was down and every single person had a problem, right?
Wow.
No one knows how to get to an ENS, and I understand them. It's no one's actually learning, educating people to go to ENSs. So I was up just answering every single one. So we can't, even though the airdrop should be foolproof, people still will ask like details about networks. We might have like missed stuff, and we don't want the chat to be filled with the angry people, basically.
Nathan says it's spotty, but we should be good. Yeah, so is it okay if I send them out after this call?
We should coordinate just with who will be online, because obviously for us in Europe, it's late already now. But if we push, we need people to be there to respond. I rather not be up all night again.
Yeah, fair enough. So I guess just let me know when you want me to push them, because they are ready.
Cool. Ready to roll. Rick roll. Cool. Well, that'll continue to be exciting. Swapper. Love the kind of energy of the last couple days, and specifically the last kind of 12 to 16 hours. It's fun to see people come in and ask questions, and different people in the community answer. I was just looking at a comment from like the RF New that he made like an hour ago that was like 6 or 7 bullet points that are like answering a bunch of questions. It's kind of fun to see that there in the Discord from him.
And maybe a good time to point out too that like when people come in, this is a great opportunity to engage other communities, right? Even if people are just having trouble or trying to understand why they don't have an airdrop, it's still an opportunity to like chat with those people and like learn about where they're from. Like somebody opened a ticket from Bankless, and they weren't eligible for the airdrop because their voting actions had come after the snapshot. But I was like, oh, hey, I'm in the Bankless DAO too, like blah blah blah. We were talking about maybe doing some joint community calls. Like the whole point of this airdrop is to also to reward DXD holders, but also to engage other communities. So we should take advantage of that, and that means like everybody here getting in the Discord and like being part of the conversation, following along, answering when you can. I think we might do some organization around shifts of like who will cover when, because it's good to make sure we're like Seth's saying, it's not great to make him stay up all night. We need to make sure we're doing a good job covering it, like crypto's 24/7, and we need to adapt to that, right? But the other thing is there's a 1% like kind of discretionary part of the marketing airdrop that is not really allocated yet. So we want to kind of engage people on like where that should be spent and like starting the conversation about that. So like, for instance, some communities have like kind of been like voiced that they were disappointed that they were too late, or like with the staked out community, they didn't I think it was the people I don't understand, maybe you guys could tell me what the actual issue is, but there was like people in the palace weren't getting the airdrop. I don't know anything about staked out, but like I think all of this is opportunities, and we need to capitalize on them, right? This is very important to do this, to like take that interest and convert it into kind of lasting interest in not only Swapper but DXDAO and the community at large. Yeah, what is the palace?
I mean, we basically messed up that airdrop. We yeah. I mean, we can't know everything about every of those like communities. I'm not blaming us 100%, but I tried to actually talk to staked out people during ETCC. But yeah, conversations went to another place, and they were just happy getting the airdrop. We should have like asked maybe like more technical, like is that correct or this correct? We had it up on the forum for a while. I know we got a comment. I don't think we understood the comment, and that's why we probably made the wrong decision. And so yeah, but I've talked to them, like they DM me, and I actually went to their Discord yesterday to talk to them, and I think we should allocate some parts of that 1% to them.
Yeah, and I think like it's kind of natural that some things are unanticipated, right? Like the airdrop script was already very complicated, and I think the important thing is this is actually an opportunity, right? When you have a problem, how you handle it, like that's really an opportunity to impress people. It's like a customer service type thing, right? Like when somebody has difficulty, how you respond to that and their like disappointment can really leave like a lasting impression. So I think like the fact that there's people tweeting about not getting the stake DAO airdrop, that's a great opportunity for us to be proactive and impress them with our community and how we make decisions.
100%.
And that same problem actually has happened multiple times with like airdrops in the stake DAO community, like, and then they have to like go and fix them. So if we go and fix it, then yeah, it does give us a lot of like good added value or added karma.
But yeah, I think maybe we should start, I don't know if it's like a Google Doc or something to start tracking like where, like who might make sense to be eligible for that 1%.
Yeah, so I was wondering what's that. I kind of like having like the discussion around that. I don't know if it's like create another Discord channel or something, but like where there is almost where like people can come and like pitch, what their community and what their kind of ideas are.
Yeah, we should maybe create a channel on Discord.
Whose decision should it be? Should it be current swapper token holders? Should that be the first? Because this happened with Uniswap, right? This same thing.
We won't have Snapshot or the guild. I think in the end it will be rep holders voting for this. We could, basically, it will basically rep holders.
Hey, Augusto, are you still here? My question was going to be how hard would it be to use a very light version of ERC20 Guild, like with a super easy interface, which already exists somewhere else, just to do simple swapper token votes, like yes or no on Arbitrum. Like that's all you just yes or no votes using swapper token on Arbitrum.
Oh, how difficult? Well, oh man, I don't know.
Take a seat, Sky. Well,
yeah.
Open a ticket. Yeah, ticket number.
Well, definitely, it's not that hard. It's not that hard. We are not talking about months of work. It can be, I know, a month of work. A month, yes.
I thought ERC20 guilds already exist.
They do, man, but integrating that in the UI on DXgov, I mean, I can do it in a week if I want, but I have other things to do.
Yeah. I mean, I think it would only matter if it could happen in the next week. Because I think Snapshot presumably will be on I think all these will probably go on Arbitrum 1 over the coming weeks, but I think we would need to be able to act within the next week, right, or two. And so I don't see how it wouldn't be rep holders making that decision.
We could signal with people's like opinions. There will not be any token voting with the signal, I think. But I think we need to like listen more than have opinions. But in the end, it's rep holders.
As much as I dislike it as a base level of governance, like Discord governance, like I think that is a way of like forming consensus in a way, like the discussion that happens from that. People can even use like the emojis there, as opposed to it being like a Google sheet. I don't know, kind of go back and forth for like how we get the soft consensus.
So yeah, we haven't launched guilds yet. Swapper Guild is a priority, and it was being discussed yesterday on the dev call. So I think we're actually going to have a serious team formed around moving forward with the Swapper Guild, but it's not going to be like in 2 weeks for sure. But yeah, I view this as like the rep holders are the ones voting on the Arbitrum base, right? So they're like the final filter approval on these proposals, right, to add additional incentives. But like the process is kind of more important. I think what you're saying, Chris, right? Like it's engaging with these communities, coming up with a reasonable proposal with them, and kind of getting that to a point where it's up on the Arbitrum base.
Also, we should do Swapper and DXG Guild, both of them in DXgov. They are going to be super similar, maybe even the same implementation. So if we integrate the guilds in DXgov, we should do both of them, and later maybe Omen. So we should take the chance and use this opportunity to bring DXG Guild also alive. Imagine that you go to the guild tab and you see your DXG and Swapper balance and your reputation. So that will be the idea, because the code is going to be almost the same.
Yeah, I mean the MVP guild. Hopefully, it is a super simplified version of the guild, so we can start off with something and then we can build on the more advanced, customized features. So the idea is a snapshot like guild, and then we build everything else from there.
Yeah, I would guess if you need now, go with something easy like a snapshot, and later we move on like on the guild feature. But yeah, again, not only Swapper, DXg Guild too, to create like to give more sense to why we are moving the guild feature into DXgov. Or Swapper. I mean, we should use it in both.
Cool. We are running up the hour. I just wanted to no proposals live, and I don't know if any. I don't know if they'll be submitted, but both the DX Ventures grant to hats. That's proposal I think is in like the finalist draft and seems to have pretty good consensus. I even saw Clement come in into the forum today and give positive words for hats. So I think we're actually going to expect that on mainnet, if I recall, and there'll also be kind of some security aspects that will go with that, with the DXD component. Tammy's not on, but I wasn't sure if there's any thoughts on that briefly.
Yeah, there's kind of two parts with the relationship with the hats. There's a proposed grant and that comes with like some hats token, and then there's also using hats, which involves setting up a committee. We're in the process of that. There'll probably be devs and product managers who are responsible for assessing bug reports, and also putting some DXD into a vault that would act as like the bounty pool. And based on the severities that you specify upfront, a certain amount of that bounty pool would be eligible for awarding people who report, find bugs that the committee like verifies are indeed bugs of a certain severity. So something that we need to decide, and maybe is worth just mentioning here. I know we're about to run out of time, but we need to decide how much DXD to put into that vault. I thought maybe they were suggesting $500,000 worth. DXD has been going up. I thought maybe something like 500 DXD might be a good amount, but that was just my view on it.
Is there a thread where we're having, because I actually mixed up those two. Of course, it's not the same thing, but like for, I guess maybe like the security kind of component in general, like how, I think that's a pretty big, especially whenever you're using the phrase committee. Committee is kind of like a thing. So how do we kind of go through what that process looks like? Who's on that? How are they selected? And the responsibilities for those?
Yeah, we haven't really discussed like how to, well, there's been some discussions of it, but it hasn't really been in the forum. There are threads that are about this that were posted by the hats team. So, I mean, the concepts are on DAO Talk, but I don't think we've like really discussed who would be on and why, etc.
I guess there was like an urgency. The urgency was around, I think, the grant though was like kind of getting in that one more than the other. I couldn't remember.
There's not really an urgency. I think, they just launched. So there is, I think, some time sensitivity around how it works out as like a PR initiative. And I think I forgot what they're calling it. I keep calling it security mining, but it's something else. They're mining. They're allowing you to like lock
protocol protection mining.
Protocol protection mining. Yeah, I'm not going to remember that one. But like if you lock up DXD or the native token for projects that have these vaults, then you can actually earn hats. So there's going to be liquidity mining basically for these bounty pools. Protocol protection mining, I will try to remember it. And so I think that's starting in a few weeks, and that's a good opportunity for DXD holders if we can get this committee and stuff in the vault stood up sooner rather than later.
Yeah, and the good thing about it is we can always add more, and I believe 500 is a pretty good number to start with, given where GXD token is headed. So if there's any need for us to make any amendments in the future, we can feel free to do it at any time, and there's no constraint. It's not locked.
Yeah.
And
also,
sorry, Sky. And the reason we're going ahead with GXD instead of Ethereum is to allow GXD holders to earn yield.
Yeah, it makes total sense to use DXD. The one thing on the two different sides of it is, so they did their announcement with like their seed round with like a bunch of investors, and then they mentioned like 2 launch partners in that article, and then actually in the video, I think DXDAO is in there as well, but not mentioned in the article. But what's unique is we would probably be the only project that we would be like an early user, so one of the launch partners or like early launch partner, and with like the additional grant for which is mainly a grant, and that would give us additional HATS tokens. That's like an early user leaning into it with an additional grant to like really show commitment to the project. And so I think there's a possibility of like another announcement, like as a follow up, because they've already announced their initial like rounds and stuff. And so we get grouped in not as like just an investor, which we're not. We're really a community user and leaning into it for like kind of ownership in the protocol, which we believe in and we're using. So no one else is in like the 2-sided position. So we could make a pretty good publicity about that, I think.
Yeah, and this is only the second tranche of them raising funds. So one could look at it as an opportunity for DXDAO to secure a stake at a discount.
I also think, as John was saying before, as people come into the community, they see things. This is exactly the type of thing. Like someone comes into DXDAO, like, okay, what else are they doing? Who else are they collaborating with? And I think like HATS kind of says something about what we're interested in too. So it's a good thing to do publicity of, I think, too.
Yeah, and just to make sure this is clear, like the 500 DXD or whatever DXDAO puts up into the vault, that's earning hats. But there's also, I think there's a cap, or will be a cap on the total amount in the vault, but it would be open to the community to also put in DXD. So when the community also puts in DXD, it contributes to the vault, and that total vault is the kind of eligible pool to be rewarded to the bug finders.
And as John mentioned previously, the main concern is our constraint in terms of internal resource and the overhead that might be involved with managing this. So that's pretty much the main concern, but I guess we'll have to manage because it will take some attention.
I was glad to hear that there is, I think, some requirement to put up like a stake or whatever if you're going to report a bug. That'll be like a good anti-spam measure. so that the committee isn't getting overwhelmed with reports that might not be real or might not be meaningful.
Proof of stake.
Yeah, this actually makes me think, what if we do not have the capacity to, make a good educated decision whether something is a concern or not? Like, do we have to engage third parties to weigh in on this? Like, would hats themselves offer support, or do we rely on our own resource? Because that will be an issue. It would have been nice if we had Alan to clarify this now.
Yeah, I mean, that's the kind of the role and the responsibility of the committee. And I do think like our developers are in the best position to be assessing, the impact of a smart contract vulnerability or issue within our ecosystem. But I mean, yeah, it would depend, but that is the responsibility of the committee, and they could potentially reach out to others in the security community too.
Awesome, and I know we're over time, but Dave, I don't know if you had posted the TDP v3 last week, so I wasn't sure if you wanted to talk briefly about this. Maybe we'll have a further discussion next week. But
yeah, we spoke about it last week as well. But I guess the main difference between this treasury diversification proposal compared to the others is that it includes 2 new stable coins, or I guess there is some disagreement in the whole industry what a stable coin really is. But the 2 new coins, so to speak, is one of them is RAI, which is actually a stable coin in itself, as in it is not pegged to the US dollar. And the other one is just LUSD from Liquidity, which is a low collateralized stable coin, which is pegged to the US dollar. And the only thing I would really mention is RAI is kind of like the biggest diversification in this proposal, making up 60%, so 3 million of the 5 million to diversify. And the reason behind that is also that we kind of want to send the signal that we support projects like RAI, which are actually really decentralized rather than just, digitalized US dollar, right? Which might also be more subject to regulation, particularly those like USDC or DAI, which is backed by a large amount of USDC. So that's really it. I was going to post a proposal on chain as well, but kind of scouting out for a good gas opportunity, but it doesn't appear to present itself. So I might just pull the trigger in the next couple of days if I don't find any good gas situation.
Yeah, and there is, RAI is maybe a little bit difficult to understand. One criticism was that it maybe does end up tracking the price of ETH, which I honestly don't really have an informed opinion on yet myself. But I do think it's important to remember that, the A in DAO stands for autonomy, and that means having, the ability to be self-sovereign. And when you look at stable coins like USDC and USDT, there are blacklists. They are very centralized. There are literally a small number of executives at a couple companies that can basically control those assets. And so I think we are sending a very good and consistent message by supporting projects like Liquidity and RAI in their quest to provide, truly trustless, decentralized stable assets or stable coins, whatever you want to call them.
Yeah, I also saw recently, a couple of days ago, maybe yesterday, USDT is actually suing CoinDesk, or at least refusing a freedom of information request, which is not really a good signal. I know there's a lot of FUD around Tether and stuff, but if we do want to support decentralization, one idea could also be to dump some of the more extreme centralized ones like USDT for some other coin. It's something we could maybe think or talk about.
Yeah, totally. I mean, I like the approach that we're taking, because we already have 4. It's a lot of this is hedging, right? And diversification is about hedging risk, securing runway. The fact that we already have 4 different stable coins, and then we're adding 2 more, even if some of them are centralized, it's diversification of risk, right? Because even they all come with their own risks, right? So it's good to have.
Right, because RAI is, I think everything John said is completely accurate, decentralized, trustless, but it is 7 months old. It is there is a different level of smart contract risk, because it hasn't had as much funds go through it. But it's a very different type of risk than dude in like office saying you can't have USDC or USDT. So like, yeah, just spreading it out. I think LUSD and RAI are both like nice complements to the existing diversification we have here. Yeah, I'm interested what that is, Dave. I don't remember. Yeah, they've all been like, I don't know, PAX came with their like, we're 100% cash, and USDC was like oddly not as conservative as you might expect, but they just came out, I think they're like a week or two ago, and announced they're moving to like all cash reserves or something. Though I think a lot of like the centralized stablecoins are like, they're preparing for their own 10x, but like for them to 10x, that means they're going to like get integrated with like every big financial institution regulatory body. So like that's what they're kind of focusing on now, is how can they scale that, the compliance of that. But it's yeah, I think just who knows. I think there will be lots of different options in the market going forward, and I think, yeah, considering all of them and diversifying it.
I think some projects actually already dumped USDT based on recent news and involvement stuff. Yeah.
Awesome. And then just kind of lastly on the contributor UX front, Melanie couldn't make it today, but she just wanted to give me an update. And as we said earlier, next week we'll have some discussion about the DXD vesting component and how we can kind of get that squared away and come up with a system for that. And then secondly, they've been working on the DX referral, which I think the proposal passed at the end of last week there. So that's a new system there. And yeah, I think that's it from there. Anything else to discuss?
Yeah.
Oh,
Chris, I was able to hop on.
You
Sorry if you hear some like airplane acoustics, but we've officially come to an end of the search for our next marketing lead. As you know, the past few months, the contributor UX has been screening and conducting any interviews alongside the blockchain recruiting agency position to fill this role. So many of you have already met her in the meetings and on Keybase, but if you haven't, Nissa will be joining us and leading our marketing efforts. Her username on Keybase is @NissaS. So reach out to her if you haven't had a chance to introduce yourself. She currently has an active proposal that just passed over the weekend on chain as well. In addition, Position will be posting in the DAO Talk forum, just recapping the experiences and learnings of recruiting for a DAO. You can all check that out to learn more about the process and experience we had when it goes up. And then like Chris mentioned, last week I walked you through the proposal for DX Referral, DXDAO's contributor referral program. So I'm happy to say that it did pass on chain. With that being said, if you have any referrals, go ahead and send them my way or let any of us know. And then lastly, of course, we've been planning more around the conference and retreat in October. Dave touched on this on Monday, but just to remind you all that accommodations are booked, so you can start looking into flights. If you haven't had a chance to yet, just reach out to me or Dave if you have any questions. And thanks, Chris.
cool. Awesome. All right. Well, thanks everyone.
Thank you very much, guys.